coverage of
We are sitting appreciating a beautiful sunny afternoon and a wonderful view over Juma. And a good start to the afternoon, and this is Safari Live. Safari Live, and we've got a lovely little bird to start the show. It's a long-billed crombeck, jumping around in the branches of that marula tree. There it is, look at that beautiful little bird, very, very short tail, so quite easy to identify. Now, I have got that on my bird list. We've been doing some birding the last few days. Good afternoon again. As I said, my name is Byron, and on camera with me is this afternoon again. So we've been having Juma the last few days. We had a wonderful elephant. We've been working to see bird eating in this area. We only have birds to you know, maybe I think it's all sorted. Some elephant, and there's a big bull elephant. He's crossing the road. He seems to be moving quite quickly. Looks like he's in a little bit of must. That's a nice view of him. A beautiful big bull. What a nice surprise. You can see he's feeding on one of the branches, and we noticed that with that herd of elephant we saw this morning, now in winter there's not a lot of vegetation for them to feed on, not a lot of leaves, and what the elephants then do is they try to feed on the bark of the trees, and the bark they strip off of the branches. A lot of nutrients in that food that they are feeding on. So now have a look, you can actually see that bark, how it's been if I've ever seen an elephant show anthropomorphizing animals and giving them human emotions. So, but I mean, I've seen elephants show aggression. That's an emotion. I've seen elephants show aggression many times. You know, I've seen elephants experience, I suppose, what we would assume as a state of happiness when they're feeding on various vegetation, marula fruit. They enjoy the marula fruit. Also, when they go and they swim in the rivers and the dams, I'm sure that's a form of happiness. But to what extent? Oh, let me jump out here quickly. Oh, there we go. Well spotted, Sept. I think it is. Shall I jump out quickly? Stick with us for a second. Let me show you something. I'm just going to jump off here. Just make sure the snake isn't still around. Oh wow, this is wonderful. Oh dear. You know what? It's amazing how dry it is now. I suppose because of this time of year. Hold on, I think I'll get some of it off here. I'd love to show this to you. That's amazing. Now, when all else fails, I'll just break the branch. There we go. Oh, this is great. I'll jump up here quickly. Hold on a second. Sorry, let me just plug in again so I can hear Megan. Otherwise, she might shout at me. There we go. Oh, look at that. This is very, very cool. A beautiful snake skin, a small one. It's not a very large snake, but it's amazing how dry it is. Is that okay, Seb? Sorry, I don't want to...
more by the dashboard.
Sorry, it's a bit too close. Sorry, and there's a shadow now. Let me put it here. Sorry, Seb. Is that better? There we go. There we go. So look at that. Beautiful snake skin. Now, just having a look at this, and where I found this snake skin, it was obviously up in that branch, so I'm assuming it's a snake that is comfortable in the trees. And let's look at that head. Look at the scales around there. Now look, this is wonderful. You can see, look at the little eyes. Actually not little, very large eyes. And the scales on the head, you can see each scale, how the snake has shed its skin. Now I would assume, judging by the size of the head and the eyes, I think this is possibly the skin of a boomslang, a tree snake, also known as a tree snake, the boomslang. Sorry, it's a bit dry, it's getting stuck on everything here, but very, very dry already. I suppose this time of year it is so dry. Oh yes, and I suppose we can maybe add this to James's tent collection. But it's always nice to see these sheddings, the snake skin that's been shed. Well spotted, Seb. Seb, actually, you spotted it yesterday. Yeah. And you said to me, if we drive past it again, we must have a look. But yeah, I think this is possibly of a boomslang. Now, the boomslang is a very venomous snake. I'm just going to put this down here. Probably the most venomous snake, drop for drop. Probably the most venomous snake in southern Africa, or in Africa. It's debatable though, but it's between that. And they're also very venomous. Now, the boomslang actually has hemotoxic venom. It attacks the blood. You start bleeding internally and bleed to death. Not a pleasant way to go, I suppose. But very few bites are actually recorded from these snakes. They're very placid and they tend to move away quite quickly if they are disturbed. Whereas other snakes, like the black mamba, for example, if it feels threatened, it's quick to defend itself. It won't just attack people, but quick to defend itself if it feels threatened. And they are also very, very venomous. Snazzy, no, the shedded skin is just the outer layer of skin. There's no venom or anything on here. Now, Snazzy, you actually asked if the snake is so poisonous. Now, let me just quickly mention something about poison and venom, and they're actually different. So don't get confused between the two. So snakes, scorpions, they all have venom. Now the reason for that is venom is injected. So the snake bite, it injects the venom into you. Scorpion sting, it injects the venom into you. So they all are venomous. Poison, on the other hand, will be found in plants or trees or flowers, and that is ingested. So poison is something you ingest, and venom is something that is injected. So always remember that. That is the correct terminology for those two different scenarios, for poison and for venom. But the skin, not venomous to us at all. You can touch a skin without any worries. Okay, well, let's try head over to the Mara again, and let's go across to James, and he's got vultures.
What do you mean, let's try and go over to James? What does that mean? Here we are, everybody, yes, in the Mara, doing our level best to bring you entertaining pictures of biological magnificence. And here we have the great marabou stork surrounded by the Rupel's griffin. That's the one that just did a leap about. And the other one that looks a little bit like Quasimodo, and a couple of whitebacks. And they are on a poor wildebeest that is not going to be making any further migratory movements, other than those, of course, into the heavens. Now, while you look at this, I must just tell you, I had an experience today with my friend Batters on the back here. We went driving all the way down to the very south of the reserve, where there was no signal, unfortunately, but in search of the big herds, because we'd heard rumours of them crossing the river in the south, where there's very steep crossings are, and it's almost impossible to get signal there. Anyway, we saw hundreds of thousands, I'm sure, moving steadily down south towards the Serengeti. And of course the obvious question here is, oh, well, is that it? Are they all going back into Tanzania for good? I think the answer is no. I think the answer is that they have had a lot of rain there in the last few days, and so the wildebeest are heading down in that direction, and I think they will turn around and come back again if there is rain here. But very little about this migration is predictable on a micro level. On a macro level, we can say they'll come from the southern plains up to the northern parts of the Mara Triangle and go back again to the southern plains. We know the route that they'll take, but the timing of that route is very difficult to predict. Here comes another whiteback coming in. Isn't that wonderful? That's beautiful. Now, he's just looking around, looking a bit embarrassed because his landing wasn't very graceful, is what I meant. And there are countless carcasses lying about the place here that have not been eaten by the predators that killed them. It really does astound me. We watched a beautiful kill the other day, We watched a kill that was superbly executed by a lioness not far from here. She killed an adult wildebeest. She fed on it probably for about half an hour, and then she just walked off. I still don't know who that lioness was, but it was a remarkable sighting to have. The reason I paused there suddenly was because I thought I saw a lion, but I didn't. You know that feeling when you think you've seen a pussy cat? You know that feeling, Craig? He's not nodding at all. Let's go back to these chaps. Hello, Mr. Ackerman. You want to know if these birds have got a hierarchy like other animals? Well, they have a hierarchy of species. So, although the stork is bigger than most of them, he doesn't tend to dominate at a carcass like this. They are dominated normally by the lappet-faced vulture, which is the biggest vulture we get, then probably the rupels, and then the white-backed, and then, of course, one or two of the storks. But within the actual group of, say, rupels vultures, is there a hierarchy? I think it's probably purely to do with size. And I guess a little bit like human beings, there will be some who are bolder than others and will therefore manage to dominate the hierarchy more than the more timid versions. But I think to be a timid vulture is to be a hungry vulture from the east, which makes me deeply terrified to the core of my being. As I quiver in my small size 7s, let's head across to Scott Dyson, he of the beard like a male lion, and see if this time he is able to say hello to you.
It isn't working. I would put it down to a cable jiggling extraterrestrial being in outer space. Possibly. Those are my thoughts. My name's Scott Dyson. It's great to have you on board with myself and Manu on camera. We have decided to drive the river road, which takes us south from our camp, in the hope that we may find Scar, a big male lion. He likes to lurk a little bit further south from here, quite close to the river. He works both sides of the river. He actually swims across it from time to time. And for those of you who don't know about Scar or haven't heard about him, he is a massive, really impressive male lion. Beautiful big black mane. And we haven't seen him for a while. There was a request by somebody, I forgot who, this morning, for us to go and look for him, as well as another request that came through this afternoon from a special friend of mine. So that is the plan, and we're going to loop around back to the two young male lions that we had this morning if we don't have any further luck. Hopefully Thankfully, the storm that we're heading towards, that James I think also just showed you, is not going to affect us. But we do have a circus-like tent that we can drop down, cover ourselves up and keep dry. It just doesn't make for the most entertaining safari, sadly. So let's, fingers crossed, hope for rain to be elsewhere, just not around us. We do need the rain in the general area, just not right where we are. What's fascinating on that topic is that we've really worked out and got an understanding of how localized the rain can be. Sometimes up at camp, which is up on the escarpment, the Oloololo escarpment to our right, just a little bit further behind us. Up there it can be raining, and down here it can be dry, and vice versa, yet the distances can be very, very short between where the rain is falling and where it is not. I have got good news. We are going to stop very quickly and show you some striped animals before we send you south to Juma to show you a spotted animal, one of the most iconic of Africa, and a very, very beautiful one indeed. Over to Byron.
Now we are going to go and try and help one of the other guys. He's found some leopard tracks. And they look fairly fresh, so we're going to try and maybe work in that area and give him a hand. I'm just having a look quickly because the spot is giant eagle owl, but we haven't seen it for quite some time. Now I'm not sure if it's possibly just moved from these trees, maybe further down the river, the dry riverbed. This is the Mulwati that we are sitting above at the moment. So I don't know, they tend to move from tree to tree, especially these big jackalberries, these thick trees. Always nice for them to roost up there during the day. A lot of cover, a lot of foliage for them to hide in until eventually they will come out at night, be a bit more active and try and hunt. Although the other day, I say that, but the other day Tristan got that giant eagle owl that was feeding on something and caught in the morning or in the afternoon. Tristan watched it the afternoon. It was busy feeding in one of these trees. I've spotted some vervet monkeys. Let's see if we can get a glimpse of them. Can you see it there? Oh, there it is. Just looking down at us. That's a young one, a little vervet monkey. Enjoying the afternoon sun in this big jackalberry. I like the scientific name of the jackalberry, actually. I mean, James used to drill these scientific names into us. We'd have to know them. And it is important so you don't get confused between the trees and different common names. Sometimes common names get confused, but with scientific names, it only has one name. So it can't be called a number of different things, because the jackalberry was also used to be known as the ebony. But the scientific name is Diospirus mispelliformis. Try to say that 5 times fast. You see, these monkeys are enjoying the jackalberry fruit at the moment. The Jersey Lady and Jenny Animation, you are very excited and happy that we found some monkeys. It is always fun and entertaining to watch some of the monkeys outside of camp and away from camp. And I say that because they can get very cheeky, and they do steal things like food and sugar and coffee and all sorts of... If you leave anything out, the monkeys and the baboons will possibly raid the camp. So it's nice to see them out of the camp and feeding on natural food like this jackalberry fruit. I also think with these monkeys being around, they would probably irritate the owl and probably chase the owl out of the trees. Now, Eduardo, you were asking just something that was on my mind. You were wondering if the giant eagle owl, could feed on one of these monkeys, and I'm trying to see if there is any sign of them feeding on monkeys, and yes, there is, Eduardo, they would. So maybe the younger monkeys. I doubt a baboon. Baboons are far too big. But the younger, smaller monkeys, yes, the giant eagle owl will try and catch them. But I think if these monkeys are around in the trees, the adults will probably chase the owl away. It's interesting, It's interesting that they say that a giant eagle owl has even been recorded in catching young piglets, warthog piglets. Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that. OD Farming, you asked if there are any other primates around here that we see. Yes, and the baboons, the Chacma baboon. Probably, well, not probably, it is the largest primate out here, other than Tristan, but he's on leave at the moment, so it's I'm only joking, Tristan. Hopefully he's watching. He'll be back on Thursday. But no, the baboons, OD Farmer. You see, I've got monkey on the brain now. I apologize, OD Farmer. Oh, see, we get so tied up with, tongue-tied with all these different names. I hope this gets fed through to James. I'm sure he'd have something to say about this, but let's go and see what he's doing and how his drive is going.
Now we're up here because we want to get a bit of a vantage over the Mara and see what is left. This is wildebeest-wise, so we're just going to gaze out towards the river, which is the band of trees in the far distance, next to which I believe Scott is now taking shelter from the rain, which makes me very nervous indeed. And I'll tell you that. And there's still a lot of wildebeest. There is actually still a lot of wildebeest action off to the far east and southish areas. So that is good, and I can still hear some canoeing and gnawing. The rain is starting to fall, but it's certainly not heavy enough yet for us to stop. So let us continue. Shall we, Craig? What I'll do is just start the car. It's very noisy, this car, so I'm going to start us off. We are on the slope, and then switch off, and we can just roll down the hill together. This is much more pleasant than the dulcet sounds of the 300D turbo diesel. Not so, Batman. Batters agrees. Batters is not a fan of the diesel engine. I don't think we're going to go along there. I think we're going to go all the way down here. Now, Mr. Cactus, what an appropriate name you have for the question you have asked. You say, are there any invasive species of concern in the Mara? Well, other than the human being, I'm going to say not really, although I have seen one or two species of cactus, which of course are not indigenous to Africa. There is no indigenous cactus species in Africa. And so I'm going to say one or two. I don't think there are any that are of major concern, no. Yes, there will be various exotics that come down the rivers when they come down in flood. Any river that runs through a rural village or a town, or it doesn't even need to be rural, it can be urban, is going to bring with it all sorts of things that aren't necessarily supposed to be in an area like this. And so I'm sure that happens all the time. But there are no, like, in various parts of Africa, for example, the water hyacinth has taken over enormous water systems and blocked them up and made things very difficult. We know that cactus has overrun some places. South Africa's got major problems with something called a chromalina or triffid weed. Out here, I don't know of any major issues. So that's quite nice, actually. It's a tremendously resilient ecosystem, this. It is quite spectacular. And I think that while one hesitates, in fact, one should never use the term in harmony as far as nature goes, because it gives a false sense of a kind of peacefulness that exists. This ecosystem and its occupants, from a human and animal point of view, have been here for much longer than they have in many parts of southern Africa's ecosystems, for example, with the exception of perhaps Botswana and Namibia, which have hardly any people in them at all. This ecosystem has been functioning like this probably for close on 100,000 years, and if you include our ancient human ancestors, more than 1 million years. And I think that's given it a resilience to our effects on it that perhaps many others do not have. And speaking of which, this is going to be the very first time I've done this. There's a beautiful white flower. Look. What it is, I don't know. Judy H., your very first flower test of the Masai Mara. What on earth is that thing? Judy H. pointed out that when I was showing you something the other day, there was a beautiful red flower next to it, and she pointed out that I had not mentioned it, and I hadn't even noticed. Dreadful it was of me. Anyway, there is the flower for you, Judy H., and you can try and tell me what it is. I couldn't begin to imagine. I'm afraid the rain is now starting to fall, which is a little distressing. Anyway, not much we can do about that. All right, let's head across to Byron, I believe, who is looking for number 91 on his bird list. Byron, of course, is drawing the saga out forever.
Wow, what is that? Hold on, everyone. I've got an interesting bird. Oh, there it is. Can you see it? Flew back again. Sorry, Seb. We've got a bird that I definitely is not. It's not on the list. There it goes. Oh, you know what? We might get a glimpse. Hold on, everyone. This is very exciting. This is not a bird we see very often at all. There it goes again. Let's see if we can get it. It was. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. There it sits. There it sits. Straight ahead. Did you get it there, Seb? What on earth is that? Sorry, down. There we go. There we go. Quickly, everyone, get loads of screenshots. Okay, now I need to look quickly. What is that? Give me a second. We'll work it out. I think, is it not an eastern? No, never mind. It's not that. Yeah. What is that? Is it not a... I've hit a complete blank. There is a bird I've got in my mind and I can't remember the name for some reason. That you don't see very often. And I'm sure some of my friends are shouting at me now because I can't get it. Where did it go? So we can get a again. I'm sure it was still in this tree somewhere. Why now? Shrike. No, was it a cuckoo shrike? Was it not a black cuckoo shrike? Hold on. Let me just have a look here and see if I can find it. I think it's a female black cuckoo shrike, if I'm not mistaken. It is. Yeah, I almost had a moment where I was getting very cross with myself. It is a female black cuckoo shrike, everyone. That is a wonderful bird to see. Look at that. That is a lovely, lovely bird. The black cuckoo shrike. Sorry, there are just some other vehicles coming through here. I'm going to just move out of this area. I don't want to move or get in their way. And the other vehicles out and drive and try to spread out a bit. I think they're all coming into this area now to have a look for the set. Maybe check around. The black. I knew what it was. It's so frustrating sometimes when you've got a bird in mind and you just can't remember the name. 91, that I did not expect to see a black cuckoo shrike. And that is wonderful. That is really, really great. I got so excited I forgot the name. Can you believe it? Now, oh, but that is a lovely sighting of one. I'm glad now. I think some friends of mine, as I said, some friends of mine are probably shouting at me. I know Craig and Alistair are watching, so if you guys are watching, I don't know if you knew what that was actually. Probably not. I'm sure they'll send me messages and see if they did. It's Sunday, of course, so everybody's having Sunday lunch and getting together with friends. See, we have to work on Sundays. It's okay though, we don't mind. Hey Seb, it's not really work. It's a pity there isn't any water in Chele Pan. It's dried up completely. It's a little pan that we're approaching now. I'm sure we would have a lot of birds around there. I really did not expect to see a black cuckoo shrike. That was a great surprise. You know what we haven't seen in a while, everyone, is giraffe. I was just thinking about that now. I haven't seen giraffe for quite some time. About a week, I think, was the last time we saw giraffe. I just want to have a look around here and see if we can't pick up another bird or two. But in the meantime, let's head across to Scott. Oh, that sun is bright. And apparently he's got rain covers on. It might be raining there already.
And this is due to the fact that the green canvas one above us was not made very well, and it is like a sieve. So we've got this blue tarp on top of that, and we kind of semi-bunkered down. Now what I want to try and do is work some angles. There's some beautiful rays of sun poking up here. We're just going to have to park the car. I'm hoping this will give Manu enough of a view just to sneak through. Let me hold this up. There we go. Excuse the cable. There we go. Beautiful. Look at that. The sun's coming through the clouds and it is making a wonderful scene. But there is some slight drizzle. I mean, it's on and off, but as soon as it does start raining, we cannot take any chances. We've got some seriously funky and expensive equipment on these vehicles to make this live broadcast possible, and we would hate for it to get wet. The good news is we are redeveloping and redesigning the roof and the canvas structure, and our first new modifications should be in or finished soon. I'm hoping within the next week, which will make our lives a lot easier with regards to the rainy weather. So that's something to look forward to. Hello Riti, you are quite impressed by the travelling circus, and I am happy to hear that. That's good news. Very good news actually. We try our best, and that's one of the things with Safari Live, is that because we're kind of the only people to really do this kind of a thing, we have to pioneer new roads and new ways to get things done. Sometimes it's not very pretty, but it often does work, and this is an example of that. The amount of tinkering and work that's done in order to get all this equipment on these vehicles and working and linked together is actually quite phenomenal, and I love watching the tech guys and cameramen work out the puzzles and mysteries to get everything working. Enough about that. It sounds like you have got some beautiful sunny weather in South Africa, not like the gloomy rainy weather here in the Masai Mara, so why don't you go and jump on Byron's car and enjoy the sunshine.
Right, so we're still trying to work on our bird list. Apparently, just excuse me a second, sorry, I'm just listening to the radio. Sorry, I'm just listening to the radio, the guides that are looking for that leopard. So maybe we can help each other find that leopard. Sorry, I'm just listening, everyone. Give me a second. These guides are updating each other. It sounds like they might have found a leopard, or caught a glimpse of a leopard. Hold on. Mike for Byron. Mike, sorry, I've just been off for 20 minutes. Have you still got visual of that animal? Okay, copy that. No problem. There's no rush. That's fine. Thanks very much, Mike. Copy, no problem. We'll get an update later. Thank you. Oh, that's great news. It sounds like they've found a male leopard, everyone. I'm not sure which male it is yet, but it sounds like they have found a male leopard. Now, there were 2 or 3 vehicles already in that area looking for him, so they found him, but it sounds like he's gone and laid down in the Mulwati. So that's okay. That's good news for us. So we'll let them have a view, and we'll go in a little bit later, and I'm sure we'll get some. To be honest, it might even be better for us to go a bit later, because possibly we'll get that leopard moving around. That's what I'm hoping for. And maybe better light, exactly, Seb. So let's carry on driving around and see what else we can find for now. We'll give the other guests a view, and then we'll try get in there a little bit later. I think that'll work out nicely for us. See, it helps to chat to one another on radio. You know, we were fortunate the other day. We found Hosanna, and we let the other guides know, and they came and enjoyed the sighting with us, and vice versa. We all keep in touch, and it's very important while we are guiding, and just making it a little bit easier to look for these animals, because of course we can't be everywhere all the time, but there's always something going on out here. So if we try to spread out and cover a larger distance or larger area, then we'll probably find more. Okay, well, someone who's not going to be concerned about the rain is Steph, who is actually in the control room at the moment watching the river cams.
Good afternoon, and yes, welcome to the river cameras for the first time today. It has been very quiet on these river cameras today, and I think it is because of the increased flow of water, as you can see from that fantastic shot from Main North. My name is Stef Winterboer, and it is my pleasure to host these river cams for you today. What I do want to do is, before we lose it, I'd love to show you a shot from the mountain cam, please. No, don't go anywhere, bird. Don't go anywhere. Can you see that? That is that is just such a lucky shot for us. I've been trying to get that for ages. So this is a auger buzzard that is part of a pair that come on windy days up into this valley that we live in. And I think hover for a while to silhouette themselves against the sky so that other auger buzzards can actually see them silhouetted against the dark sky. Let's see if I can get us in a little bit better. There we go. Come on, there we go. Legs out to create a little bit of drag. Where are we going? We come back here, bird. And there we go, back into, this is the, why don't it want to stay still today? And are we going to lose it? No, still in the same place. There we go, and as you can see, there's enough wind speed at the moment to allow this bird, without flapping, to stay aloft. Isn't that just fantastic? It's hunting at the moment. I actually saw a mouse in the bush now. I was busy walking in the bush just before I came through, and I saw a mouse now. So they're out enjoying the... Oh, this is going to get difficult. Let me just go a bit wide and use VM Durenbracht's bird following technique. Isn't that just the most amazing thing? We see this bird most days here. I don't know if it's the same bird. Could possibly be. Where have you gone now? Roshni, you say you're really envying us in the Mara right now. Roshni, where are you stuck on this planet today? You can't just say something like that without letting us know where you are and what you are doing. It is a brilliant day out here in the Mara, I must be honest. It's been overcast and quite cold. I woke up cold this morning for the first time since we got here 6 months ago. And it hasn't really warmed up the whole day. It stayed this sort of gloomy, let me darken a little bit. You can see the cloud cover above us, relatively high up, quite thick clouds hanging over the escarpment here. And it's been rather blustery. Hasn't rained at all, although that seems like it's going to be changing for Scott and James Shame. I feel for them out there on days like this. It is not comfortable in these cars when it rains at all. In actual fact, I'd almost be in a city when it rains. Anyway, let's go through the cameras a little bit. I want to show you something. If we could go to cul-de-sac crossing, please, Alice. I did mention that it was raining last night. As you can see, there's been a lot of rain. The river has actually come up and subsided again really quickly, which tells us something about what this river and what its drainage line is really like. It's got a really sharp increase with a really sharp drop-off. There the water raised up. You can see where it flooded across the sandbank last night, and then it has dropped again throughout the day. There's a big crocodile there. It did bring with it another carcass. Now, yesterday, for those of you who are watching, we saw 3 carcasses come down the river. I don't know if this was one of them. I doubt it. I think this is probably a new one, a wildebeest carcass, which is washed up on the sandbanks there, and which will at some point be devoured by crocodiles, either in this pool or further down the stream. Isn't it just amazing how this river is so temperamental? It is amazing. Kenya is in the grips of a drought at the moment, and from what I'm told from colleagues of mine, that this river is about half the height of what it should be. It should be halfway up that bank. That is the height that it should be at the moment for this time of the year. Isn't that incredible? Half the water. Now, let's go to Dusty Crossing, if we could. There is Dusty Crossing, and at Dusty Crossing, we've got a crocodile that probably throughout the course of the evening moved into this position that you see right now, and has been lying there for the day. It's probably been out of the weather for this croc, which has allowed it to maintain a pretty decent body temperature, I'm sure, because wind is not going to be kind. Excuse the freezing that we're getting from the camera at the moment with all the moisture in the air. Whoopsie, camera's on a rogue mission. All right, let's go over to main south while Dusty gets itself under control again. What happens is we lose signal with these cameras, and from time to time one goes on a rogue mission like you see over there now and doesn't get the signal to turn around or to switch off. So what we can see at main south crossing is a hammerkop bird, which is not all that unusual. Hammerkop birds are fairly common out here, but you hardly ever get to see them on these cameras. They tend to be pool or more pool dwellers, where they use their feet and their beak to try and hunt for invertebrates. And I think what's happened with this particular river is as it's come up, it's brought with a whole bunch of insects, and as it's subsided again, those insects have taken refuge in detritus, and the hammerkop has now come into that detritus to try and glean itself a dinner or a supper. Right now, just waterproofing its feathers. It's a heron. You can see that fancy feathered headdress that gives it its name, hammerhead bird. I've also heard it referred to in English as a lightning bird. Hammerkop means hammerhead, and it's the Dutch, or I suppose Dutch-German Afrikaans, Flemish description of this particular bird. But at the moment, I'll just call it a lightning bird. And the reason for that is that the local guys in the Kruger National Park, the local Shangaan guys, believe that if this bird builds a nest in a tree above your house, that it's going to cause lightning to strike there. In any case, why don't we go and have a look at Scott, who's got a fantastic sunset to show you.
Well, is this not absolutely breathtaking? Manu has worked his magic on this camera, and the sun has worked its magic to break through what is a very, very cloudy and somewhat drizzly afternoon in the Masai Mara. You can possibly hear the drizzle pitter-pattering down on top of our circus tent. We have half opened the tent, and as we did that, it started raining again, but we've positioned ourselves with our bottom towards the wind, well, in the direction the wind's coming from, so most of the rain is hitting the closed back half of the vehicle and the front half of the vehicle, other than my back. And this little section here, you can see a few spots of rain have made it into the car, but not many, just to here. So the wind is coming from basically behind us, and it's not ideal because we're trying to go in that direction. I suggested to Manu we could possibly reverse all the way there and just give you shots along the way, because putting the flaps up and down takes a little bit of time. But it stopped, so we can continue. Woohoo! I really do love that bird that you're looking at with Steph, the hammerkop. They're one of my favorite birds to watch hunting. They are great hunters. They use their toes to detect their prey. And it sounds like birds are on the menu this afternoon, because Byron is also searching for birds. Oh, we need to stop because the sun's even looking better now. Sorry. Let's just show you a quick look. There's, oh no, I'm not used to the circus tent. Let me swivel a bit more. Okay, now Manu should be able to get the majority of that array that is really looking quite beautiful. That's bursting through on the left. Magic. Okay, well, let's try that again. I hope Byron doesn't have a bird that's ready to flitter away, because that would be a great pity. If that was the case, he is on an incredible quest to try and reach 100 birds, as I'm sure he's told you. I'm hoping he does succeed. He's nearly there. Why don't you go and see what he's found?
Alright, so we are trying to continue our bird watching. However, our patience has paid off. They found a male leopard earlier. Now we're going to go and join that sighting. One of the other guides managed to find a male leopard. He's lying in the Muwati, so I'm hoping we get a nice view of him. I'm not sure who it is yet, but let's go and have a look. I'm very excited. We're not too far. We're almost down in the drainage line, so this is going to be quite spectacular, I hope. He might be lying down in the thicket, but we'll sit and spend time with him. Maybe we get to see him moving around. The wind again has picked up substantially, and it's actually quite chilly now. It's not very pleasant. I'm looking forward to getting down into this drainage line. Maybe we'll have a bit of cover. I just need to work out what our best approach is. I know they did, I think he's down in the drainage line somewhere. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go downstream in the Mulawati from this area over here. Alright, well, let me head down here and see if I can get a bit closer to this this leopard. And while I do that, let's go across to Steph, who's watching some elephant.
There's an elephant that is just crossing the river at Dusty Crossing, but unfortunately Dusty Crossing's camera is still a bit errant. We're losing and gaining signal from Dusty Crossing's camera, and of course I lose and gain the ability to control it from a couple of miles away. But it'll be nice, I think. I'm just going to leave this one in shot. Have a look at this elephant. He's obviously feeling with his trunk the bottom of the riverbed to make sure that he doesn't fall into any holes. But just look at this, completely at home. Gives you an idea of how deep the river actually is. A big bull elephant like this, we could, there's a nice cool drink. A big bull elephant like this, I could probably walk underneath the front of his armpits. That's how tall he is. Maybe just brushing the top of my head, but around about 6 feet tall underneath his armpits. You can see the tree in the background there, shaking in the wind. There's a lot of wind down in this valley at the moment, and Alice tells me that there's a lot of you out there that are enjoying and are excited to see an elephant. It's quite rare to see an elephant in this river, I must be honest with you. It's not a very common thing at all. What are you doing, boy? Why are you digging around there with your trunk? There he goes, right down in there. I wonder if he's going to have a swim. Do you think he's gone into there's a hippo giving a bit of a yawn, and that's just the hippo saying, this is my patch, please just leave it alone. It's just hippos. They're massively insecure, hippos, to be honest with you. No, Roshni, you're 100% right. Those hippos are never really happy, but they suffer from a big inferiority complex, I think. They always have to show people how angry they are. Thrash around and make a big noise. Wow, look how deep that elephant's gone. How awesome is that? Wow. That river's a lot deeper in that particular point than I gave it credit for, I must be honest with you. Come, go for a swim, Ellie. Surely you want to have a bit of a swim. I love YouTube. You've just asked me, what a fantastic name. You've just asked me if those hippos would mess with that elephant. No, they wouldn't. The hippos, suffering from their big inferiority complex, know that they'd be outmatched with an elephant. And even aggressive things like white rhinoceros, I have seen elephant, even youngsters, kill. Elephant have got the advantage of height, and with those big tusks and trunk, basically just lean on the saddle of anything smaller than them and will break their backs. That was absolutely special to see, don't you think? And from a camera that is busy playing up at the moment. Let's see where this Ellie goes. He's just going to walk up the bank over there. There, it gives you an idea of how deep it is. If I fit underneath his armpits, that would probably be where my elbows are if I had to lift my elbows above my head. That's how deep the water was. So fairly deep, actually, at that particular point. And as you can see, elephant not worried about it in the absolute least. There, as the water joins the bank by the rocks, you'll see a white-necked bird. That is a grey heron. That is, excuse me, I've got hiccups. Wow. Trying to deal with that. And that is a grey heron. Other than the black-necked heron, which is common on the grassy plains, this particular heron quite often hunts the river's fringes for frogs and for crabs and for other invertebrates. The wind is pumping down this riverbed at the moment. Why don't we go and have a look at Main North, just so that we can finish having a look at exactly how much water actually came down. That is a nice view of the rapid at Main North. I definitely think that a wildebeest or zebra crossing here now would be washed down. And I'm wondering if it's going to change what they perceive as being a possible crossing point or not. There's rain now falling at cul-de-sac crossing, and it hasn't started to fall. It looks like the rocks are wet though. It looks like it might be falling there where we're at. That is incredible, huh? It's difficult to actually gauge where these storms are going. I don't know the exact twists and turns of this river. And the reason for that is that we don't yet have access to walking around this river. And it would have been the first thing that I would have done is walk the banks of this river to find out exactly where all the twists and turns are, how far the cameras are from one another, where they're going, what's the river doing, where all the little secret places, that's for sure. All right, why don't we go and have a look at the cul-de-sac crossing. Let's go and see what those hippo are doing. Sometimes there's just too much to choose from over here. Now, cul-de-sac crossing is my favorite crossing. Not only is it on the banks of the river as it exits the forest. So there's a huge forest that is part of the Mara River, and it peters out right at cul-de-sac crossing. And so I find it quite a, for lack of a better word, I suppose, a romantic crossing. It's just got the forest on the one side, it's got a huge big palm tree on the other. It's a lovely crossing. It's quite peaceful, but it doesn't speak to the fact that we've seen mass murder at this crossing on a scale that you don't even understand. We've seen drownings, a couple of dozen wildebeest, 60, 70 wildebeest drowning. Let's go and see what these are in the tree over there. They look like vultures. We see thousands upon thousands of animals cross at this crossing, more often crossing here than anywhere else. Yep, those are vultures. Let's see if we can see what types of vultures. They're just weathering out the storm. Let's see if we can ID these vultures. The most common of the vultures I'd show is the white-backed vulture. And I think these two on the left are the white-backed vulture. And I think they're all white-backed vultures. I don't know what this one is on this side, but looking very bedraggled. Anyway, Byron has finally found his leopard, and so we are going to be sending you across to him now. Enjoy yourselves.
Alright, now we've just caught a glimpse of this male leopard, and I think it's Tingana. Hold on. Maybe we can see him through there. So before I move, or do you want me to move a bit further? Oh, is he going down the drainage?
Yeah.
Let's try and move a bit closer, everyone. Hold on. It looks like it's Tingana, beautiful big male. One of the dominant male leopard around here. There he is. I think we're going to get a nice view of him shortly. Hold on. Oh, he's right there, Seb. I'm just going to stop here because of the light. As long as we can see his face, I think. Hold on, there he is. Wonderful. Now, this is not the first time this week that we followed this male leopard through this drainage line. He seems to be enjoying this area at the moment. Look at that beautiful big dewlap as he's walking under the neck or the throat. That is lovely. Very, very nice. It's going to be tricky for us to follow him. I'm just trying to think. I don't know this drainage line that well, where there are little access points. It helps to know the area a bit better. We're actually on the wrong side of, well, maybe not. Hold on, you never know. Oh, there we go. We can still get him through there, Seb. Is that alright?
Yeah.
Looks like he might cross down. You know, and I think I can get into the drainage line from here anyway, which is great. So this is a perfect spot for us if he does cross through. Look at that beautiful golden light. Perfect for photography. Now, that's an interesting Twitter handle. I'm sure it's not true. No one likes me. You said that the leopard looks like it's fed recently. This male. Oh, let's try to see if we can get a better view. Hold on. Let's see if we can get another view of him. He's making it a little bit difficult for us at the moment, as usual, as male leopards do. Hold on a second. There's an easier little gap for us. Well, this worked out quite nicely. There's a little gap for us to jump right back down into this drainage line. He's crossing though. Sorry, Sept. He's just crossing out of there. You know, Sept, hold on, sorry, I'm going to move quickly. Sorry. I'm going to go around everyone. I'm going to get him, try to catch him on the road on the other side. Hold on. Don't worry, we'll go around the tip so we don't have to bend the aerial. Some thick sand, that's always fun. Sorry, little Franklin, a crested Franklin. Out here quickly, we're on this road now, and we should see that male coming out now. I hope he doesn't continue to that drainage line off to the right. That's where we followed him the other day, and it was incredibly thick, very difficult to stay with him. I can see him straight ahead of us, so I'm going to get a lovely view of him shortly. I think it was the right plan for us to come out and view him over here. Oh, sorry, he said there's actually a hold here. Oh, there he goes. Oh, look at that. He does look like he's fed. He does look like he's fed. His stomach looks quite full. That's wonderful. Or fairly full. It's just disappearing there quickly. Hold on a second. Afternoon, everyone. There we go. That's a nice view of him. See, again, that golden light, and he's backlit at the moment. So I think photographers would have a wonderful time with this male leopard right now. I'm smelling the air, looking around. That is a lovely view of this male. I'm trying to think, Seb, when last did we see Tingana? It was 3 days ago?
I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, so about 3 days ago, just before Senzo went on leave, we found Tingana, so it's nice to see him again. Now, Mr. P, you were asking, what is that big dewlap for that we can see on his throat? So I'm just going to reverse a little bit here, just to give the other vehicle a chance to see this leopard. There we go. I'm sure that should be fine for them. And so, Mr. P, that dewlap is... the theory behind the dewlap is... Sorry, hold on. Thanks, Seb. I'm sorry, Mr. P, that dewlap, the theory is that that thick skin around the neck will hopefully protect that leopard almost in a similar way that a mane protects the male lion, but the dewlap, I think that loose skin, thicker skin around the neck will protect the neck from fights. That's one theory. Makes it look bigger, stronger, hopefully intimidate the other leopard. But that is a beautiful big dewlap on that male leopard. Now he is going into that drainage line. We followed him the other day, which was very difficult. We'll see, maybe we can still get a view. Good. As you can see, there's some Franklin that is startled over there. Let's see if we can stick with him. I think we're going to lose him again, everyone, because this block, we drove through it and it was almost impenetrable. Here he is. He's just off through here. Sept down here. We might get a view through this gap. There he goes. There he goes. Now, notice again the tail held up high. These Franklin's alarm calling at him at the moment. Now, we spoke about this the other day. Why do leopards do this? Now, the theory is that they raise their tail, makes themselves more visible, and it's to show that they're not a threat, that they, so that they're no danger to whatever it is that's alarm calling at them. Now, I've heard that, well, I've seen it many times, and it's not just when their bird's alarm calling. Oh, wow, look at that. There's beautiful light on him again. I'm just going to drop down here quick, Seb. He's going to come through here, Seb. I think if it's alright, can I sit here? Let's just wait, everyone. He's going to come right past us, I think. And so, as I was saying, they lift their tail, makes themselves more visible, and that they then basically saying they're not a threat, they're not hunting, and they're just passing through. I'm going to keep quiet, listen to him walk past us. That's wonderful. That's amazing, look at that, nice and close, walked right in front of us, a beautiful view of him. David, you asked, is that tail raising a learned or a instinctive behavior? Now, David, I think it's instinctive. I don't think it's learned. Now we might lose this leopard. I wonder. I just don't know if he's going to lie down or if he's going to continue moving through that area. If he does continue moving, we're probably not going to be able to follow him anymore. It's amazing how this male leopard is moving around so much in the afternoon, but I think because it's nice and cool, that is why he's probably still moving around. I'm going to try and get out of here quickly. While I do, let's go across to Steph, who's still on those dam cams. Sorry, river cams.
Isn't it just wonderful to see Tingana again? I haven't seen a leopard in more than half a year, and I haven't been in a winter for an entire year. And I think that in itself is both wonderful and depressing in a way, and just shows you how different these places actually are from one another. You've gone from a cold winter's afternoon to a very cloudy sort of equatorial dry season sky there from Maine south. And we've got some action going on all over these cameras. Let's go to cul-de-sac quickly, where a group of wild-tailed swallows are just hiding out of the wind, and they tend to come and then basically just flap away again. So it gives us this nice view of these absolutely beautiful swallows. Just have a look at that. Males and females and immature swallows at the moment, and one of the fairly common swallows next to the brown martin or common martin that you see, the brownish bird that you see over there. And that's just lovely. And they all come in here just for a bit of a rest out of the wind, and then they take flight again and go and catch some insects that are starting to mass over the Mara River. That's how close they are to the camera. That doesn't even want to focus on it. There you go. Come on, camera, you can do it. All right. Now, There's an unanswered question from yesterday. We ran out of lights and we ran out of camera before I could answer Christy's question yesterday about the breeding season of crocodiles. So if I could ask that we go over to Dusty Crossing. And what we've got at Dusty Crossing is two enormous crocodiles busy sunning themselves in the last bit of the sun, well, whatever sun is left, right next to a washed up crocodile carcass. But what this does allow me to do is talk a little bit about the breeding, which is what Christy asked about yesterday. Christy asked last night, when do crocodiles lay eggs? When is their breeding season? I can answer that now that I've read the probably about 500 words that I have at my disposal on crocodiles, on the Nile crocodile at least anyway. Mating will happen anywhere from about May through to August, where male crocodiles will become territorial with one another, and then they will vie for the attentions of the females. Females will start to ovulate, they then submit to the males who mate with them, and eggs are laid in November. And after quite a short gestation period, only 90 days, I had it wrong yesterday, I thought that it was about a year, but only after about 90 days, what happens is the eggs will hatch. The mom sets up a bit of a nursery. She won't move for the 3 months that she looks after her eggs. Basically, she doesn't even eat. She just looks after those eggs, keeping them safe from would-be predators. And then she carries them gently in her mouth down to the nursery area in the river itself, and there for a couple of days, basically just looks after them and makes sure that they're okay. So all of that happens in that time. Andrew, you wanted to know how crocodiles see under the water. That's actually quite a good question there, Andre. They've got a nictitating membrane, which is there to wipe off debris off of their eyes. But what it also does is, it, like a pair of swimming goggles, it adds a separation between the eyeball and the actual water medium. And that separation allows crocodiles to see relatively well underwater. I mean, in murky water, they're not going to be able to see well at all. And I think that in actual fact that crocodiles use a series of pits on their faces. Let me just slow that down. These crocodiles are a bit far away. That's the maximum zoom I have. But on a crocodile's head, even on the skull, there's a series of pits in their scales, which I think are very effective, either electrochemical or chemical or electrical sensors that can sense movement underneath the water. And I think they use their muzzle. Quite often you see, even on the surface, a crocodile will put his top jaw on the surface, let the water rush past, and then very ably pick out movement and go and nuzzle it, just nudge it with its nuzzle. They don't lick it, they just nudge it with their nuzzle. And I think that they can actually, I've never seen a report on it. This is just obviously all my very uneducated observational based stuff based on 6 months of looking at this river. Nothing much really is what I'm trying to say, but just an observation. Let's go to Main North if you don't mind. We've got two hippos having a bit of a clash there. There we go. That's a pod of hippo, one of the largest pods of hippo that stay on the river. This is from Main North. This is at the extreme range of the camera at Main North. And this pod of hippo don't like each other. You can see there a bit of a clash going on with these hippos. Often I watch these hippos and they are almost always jumping around at one another, smashing their teeth against one another. You'd never say that they're friends with each other, hey? Now let's see, that's the bum reversing out of the water with a tail busy wagging. That is also a weird thing that these crocodiles do. It is incredible. Anyone picks its head up, that's just a form of agitation, what they do. All right, I'm going to keep my eye on these hippo. Scott is mobile again, and the rain seems to have passed and has a surprise for you.
We certainly do have a surprise for you. This is going to be an epic view. I do want to get in front of him, but I also do want to give you an opportunity to see this young male lion stroll past those palm trees. That's not your usual scene. There's not many palm trees here in the Mara. Beautiful. A young male. Who knows if he has any brothers or other coalition members nearby. You can see he's looking quite cautiously ahead, and the reason why he will be cautious is that unless he is one of Scar's sons, This is Scar's territory, and Scar is a big male lion that will not tolerate youngsters unless they are his own. And you can see this youngster certainly moving quite slowly and cautiously, stopping, listening. Hello. Very happy to have found you. Beautiful young male, I'm guessing around maybe 3 to 4 years of age. Hello Denise, woohoo! Correct. Good that we found a lion and good that the rain stopped, so things are looking promising. We are going to have to reposition though. He's about to disappear behind some vehicles. And I wonder what his movements are going to be. He may try and cross the Mara River. The Mara River is literally 100 meters over to our right hand side, very close by. Failing that, he may just go for a drink. Time will tell. And I've got some other wonderful news. Our quest to go and find Scar this afternoon could well prove successful, because I did get a report that he is somewhere fairly nearby. So that is some very good news that we can look forward to, looking for, and not far from here. We are at, I think, a place called Cul-de-sac Crossing, where we've got one of our river cameras, and he is going to be further downstream from here, somewhere near Main Crossing. Anyway, in the meantime, while we reposition, which I think is actually going to be right now, yeah, let's just wait here and enjoy this actually, because he is going to come straight towards us. We're going to get a good low angle, and after this I'm not sure what our views will be like. We've ducked into a little drainage furrow, so we should get some great views as he parades through this grass. That is, of course, if he continues in the direction he was moving in, which would lead him straight to us. But you can see he's sniffing around quite intently. I wonder what he's looking for. I wonder if he hasn't maybe left a kill nearby here. He's definitely found something that has caught his attention. What is it you're looking for, mister? Could well be the sense of other lions. If he phlegm and grimaces, which means he'll curl up his lip and grimace, baring his teeth almost like he's smiling, that would indicate that it's probably other lions that he's smelling. The fact that he's just got his nose to the ground seems to me like he could be on the trail of something to eat. I haven't seen them phlegm and grimace when on the trail of something to feed on. I've lost track of him from where I'm sitting in this long grass. Oh, what an awesome scene is this. Okay, I'm going to have to reposition again. Hello Vegas beauty snob, you would like to know if I think the lions in the Mara are more toned and well built than the lions in the Sabi Sands, and possibly. I would have to put them together to be able to make an educated decision. Yes, certainly some. I mean, the biggest lioness I've ever seen is in the Mara, and some of the most impressive males I've ever seen are in the Mara. But that's not to say that all of them are necessarily bigger and stronger and more handsome than the Sabi Sands males or the South African male lions. I guess you do need to be quite specific, so I guess we'll say the Kruger lions. Looks like we may get just one more view of him as he disappears into this thicket. A beautiful, beautiful young male, and it'll be interesting to see what he turns into in the coming years. He's still got another 2 or 3 years before he will be in his prime as a guess, but he certainly is looking like he could become an absolute beaut of a male lion. Wonderful. Well, sadly, this is where the road ends, so we are not going to be able to follow him any further, and to be honest, I'm not too concerned about that because he is very close to a big male lion called Scar, like I said a little bit earlier, and I would desperately like to show you him.